Hello everybody, Hellcrex here. Welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode, 336. And today we're going to be talking about the Plainsman Medium Hovercraft, 35 tons. It's kind of it's kind of like a the Pegasus. So it's very similar, has the same 914 moving capability, internal combustion engine. The slight difference is this one has half a ton more, so it's got 5 tons of armor on board, which gives it 80 points. It does have similar weapons loadout. It has 2 SRM-6s in the turret with 2 tons of ammunition, so you can run 15 turns with those SRMs. And then you have an SRM-2 in the front with a ton of ammunition. So it's like I really never went out of my way to get a Plainsman hovercraft, because basically I got a bunch of Pegasus hovercraft, and they pretty much do the same thing. There isn't much difference between the two of them, but there is a slight capability, just a half ton more armor. But other than that, there's really not much to write home about that would force me not to use my Pegasus. But, there is similar capabilities. Now, when I see this one loaded up, it's like, okay, you got your 2 SRM-6s. That's, that for typical hovercraft, that's in short range firepower. Typically, you're going to hit with, if you do hit, on an average, it's going to be 4 missiles per launcher, so the damage output isn't all that great. Now, with the SRM-2, to be honest, I'd probably just run Infernals in that one instead of worrying about the damage, because I'd be either dropping some fire down, because that's, if you load it up with Infernals, that's pretty much what you're going to be using to take out infantry, because the SRMs are not going to be doing a lot of damage against infantry. You hit them with the Infernals, you shaking and baking them. And also, if you're going up against any type of other vehicles, you hit them with an Infernal, you're going to be hitting them on the crit table. So there's some good possibility of doing some good work with that. So that's pretty much how I look at the SRM-2 on that. It's your anti-infantry / anti-armor. And if you're going up against mechs, well, you can possibly raise their heat scale just a tad bit, not much. But, if you have a lance these guys and they all hit, well, each one of them is going to do a little bit. So you have a possibility of raising them up on the heat scale some. Now, how do you use the Plainsman? It's very similar to how I use the Pegasus. You got some good speed. It's you're going to be running and gunning most of the time, because anytime you have a hovercraft that slows down, it's a dead hovercraft. So you got to keep the speed up, and try not to keep your flanks exposed at all, because you start hitting hovercraft in the flanks, you start getting motive hits, and that will slow them down. And like I said, any slow moving hovercraft is a dead hovercraft. And typically there's not a lot of armor on these things. 80 points spread out. It's like, they can handle, they got 18 points on the front, and I think it's 18 or 16 on the side. So they can take a little bit of damage. But best way to take out a hovercraft is if you got an LBX, like an LBX 10 or 5, those little 1-point shots, each one of them has a good possibility of doing some motive hits. And that's how you slow down hovercraft. You just try to shotgun them down. Or if you have any type of SRMs, that will do the job too. And be that it has 2 SRMs, or actually 3 SRMs, this thing has to get within 9 to do any type of damage, which is the major drawback with this. Now, if you had replaced one of those SRM launchers, like one of the SRM-6s with an LRM-5, and maybe add another, well, keep that 1 ton of extra ton of ammo. For you have some options. Heck, you could go with some extra 2 tons of ammo with a single SRM. SRM6. Yeah, maybe you would want to go Infernals with that one too. So you never know. Give you some options, cooking things out. But that's the thing that really bothers me about, is that you don't have anything that can do anything at longer range. Yes, the LRM5 is a plinking type weapon. On an average, you're doing 3 points, but 3 is better than none. And sometimes you don't want to get close, especially if you're facing off against some decent troops that can do some damage against you. So you want to hang back some and just kind of harass a little bit. And in that way, if you can just throw some harassment fire downrange, and you can do some scouting and working your way around the flanks and getting into the rear, where you can put those other weapon systems into good use. Because sometimes stuff that's hidden in the rear doesn't have the firepower up close that it should. Let's say, like any type of LRM mech or LRM type vehicle, let's say like a hunter or something of that nature. Which we do use a lot of hunters in a lot of our campaigns too, because they are good fast-moving fire support mech, or not mech, but vehicle. So that's kind of like how I would prefer things to change a little bit, but it is how they designed it, and that's the way it is. But it doesn't mean you can't swap something out. It is a vehicle, and a missile launcher for a different type of missile launcher, I can get mine. I don't have any problem with that. Now, there are a couple other versions of this one. You have the Scout Plainsman. This comes in at slightly under the original version, which comes in at 600 battle value. The Scout comes in at about 25 points less, which you have a little bit changed in it. They got swapped out the SRM2 for a Beagle probe. That's kind of useful for rooting out anything that might be hidden. So you still got the 2 SRM6s, and then with the Beagle probe, then obviously you can find things for yourself. That's kind of useful. Doesn't mean that a lot of the teeth has been removed, to be honest. Like I said, most of the time I'd probably just run Infernals with it. But that comes at a cost, because if you run across infantry, you can do some minor damage to them, but it's not like you got something that can just tear them to pieces. All right, then we have the Streak version. All right, you got the 2 SRM6s. It's swapped out for a couple of Streak SRM4s. And typically, that's not really a drop in firepower per se, because most of the time, when you hit with an SRM6, the average number of hits you're going to hit with 4. So it's not really a downgrade. Really, you're just saying, hey, I plan on doing 4 damage, or 4 hits with those SRMs. So this still comes in at 600 battle value. Yeah, it's downgraded a slight amount, but you have 2 SRM4 Streaks, and then you still have the SRM2. So, yeah, you're still sitting there going, well, do I change something out or any of that nature? Because one thing you could do is, if you really wanted something that can handle infantry also, that isn't a SRM2 Infernal tosser, you could always go with, take that SRM launcher out and then replace it with some machine guns. Heck, you could go 1/2 ton of the machine gun ammo and 3 machine guns. So you'd have to get even closer, but infantry would know you're there. So there's that possibility. And then there's the sealed version. This comes in about 30 more points than the standard version. The sealed one, basically, now your launchers are torpedoes. It has a torpedo launcher on board. So basically, it's kind of anti-shipping style. So your hovercraft goes flying across the ocean and takes out, shipping. Not very many times have I ever played a game that was on the high seas, but that's a possibility. going that route. So then you could hit underwater targets possibly too with the torpedo launcher. So that is the Plainsman. Really, it's if you got Pegasi already, really don't need to worry about picking up a Plainsman. But if you don't have either, getting a Plainsman isn't bad either. You can go that route and have Plainsman or Pegasus. So there's that. So that is it. They're not much different. It's useful. So go that, try it out sometime, and that's it. Elcrax out.